Welcome back to the Reier on YouTube channel, where it is time once again for Second Helping, the show of choice for fans and followers of the number one league in all of collegiate athletics, the Southeastern Conference. Travis Reier, alongside my great friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Beaird, a longtime college football analyst, most recently for First Coast News down in Duval. That's Jacksonville, Florida, of course. And Brent, also a longtime voter for the most prestigious individual honor in all of collegiate athletics, the Heisman Trophy. And Brent, we're going to talk a lot of football tonight. We're
Yes,
live on a
yes.
Thursday night on Reier on YouTube. We appreciate you folks for jumping on board with us. But Brent, man, you talk about a very, very competitive event. What about that SEC baseball tournament, which at last check, you
Yeah.
had Tennessee and
Mhm.
Texas. I think we're only still, what, are we in the quarterfinals? Or, I mean, we're not that far along in this
No.
thing. And
Right.
you got two programs of those statures meeting this early, and they're in extra innings in Hoover.
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, it is absolutely amazing. Trev, is it like 13 possible teams from the league get
Yeah.
in?
Oh
Some,
yeah.
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 Yeah. Just really, and now we'll know this. Help me Sunday night. And as far as who is hosting, at this point. But I mean, not only are they in, but I mean, they're either hosting or they're like number two. Texas looks like they're hosting. Florida may be second in the Georgia Tech situation. Arkansas was hosting. Bama was listed that. I'm not sure
Yeah. I
at
don't
this
know if
point.
1-1 in Hoover was enough for
I,
Bama.
I agree. I agree. Looks like Georgia's hosting. Oklahoma could be a two. Boy, they had some strong pitching last night, didn't they, Trav?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt hosting, Auburn hosting, Tennessee maybe a two. Also, some word about maybe Tennessee hosting. So, but anyway, that's just a quick rollover. I know we missed some, but man, not only are they in, Trav, but they're hosting too.
Yeah. I mean, and you kind of anticipated the league to only become much stronger with
Yeah,
Texas and to an extent Oklahoma coming in. Same thing with softball too. I mean, when you look at
right.
super regional representation this weekend in the softball, same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Texas A&M, a major disappointment,
Oh,
going
goodness.
out as a home regional host as a number one seed. You didn't anticipate that, but otherwise, there was some talk that some of these teams, like Alabama, were in danger of going out on their home diamonds in the regional round, and we didn't see that. Ole Miss, I think, went out to Tucson, Arizona, and
Mhm.
won a regional. So you'll start seeing more SEC versus SEC now as we get
Yeah.
into super regional play. But a lot of football, a lot of just SEC in general to talk, Brent, because we're going to get into the revised college football playoff seeding format. Too bad the NFL couldn't take this approach.
Yeah,
NFL had
really.
its opportunity. This was a one. This was a win, I think, for college football
Mhm.
because the NFL
Mhm.
got it wrong once again in terms of how it does its playoff seeding, sticking with its current format. Whereas the college football playoff had 1 year of the expanded field and has quickly, it seems, revised how it's going to go about that seeding, Brent.
Well, and I know you caught this too. That the important part is in 2025, if you're going to make any changes, it had to be unanimous among the conference officials and the commissioners, and this was. And Trav, I mean the pure logic of this was this committee every Tuesday night starting in November has their appointment TV
Yeah.
with having their own top 25. So, Trav, if you've got that, why do you make it hard on yourself and not just use your top 25 for and just fill in the seating from there?
Yeah, I agree. And that's what it looks like we're going to start doing. And you wonder how that could impact the SEC. Well, you just look at the inaugural 12 team field and how that
Mhm.
played out from a seeding perspective. Because had we had what we're going to have coming
Yeah,
up in this next playoff,
right.
well, if you're Tennessee, you're in a home game in the first
Yeah.
round against SMU, which I think, that would have been intriguing to had Alabama made it as a 10. You could
Yes,
have had a
sure.
Tennessee Alabama rematch, which I know they would rather not have, but hell, I think most people would be down for a third Saturday in October and maybe
Yeah.
a third Saturday in December. That would have been.
Mhm.
But you would have had SMU at Tennessee, and you would have had two SEC teams into that second round, those quarterfinals, instead of just one like you had with Georgia. Texas would have been in as a quarterfinal team, a team that wouldn't have had to have played, um, a matchup against Clemson there like they
Oh,
did in
yeah.
the first round.
Oh, yeah. Well, and obviously the weeping and gnashing of teeth over the teams that got in, that a lot of people thought that should not have gotten, or at least been or had buys or seated way too high. So, it's really unusual to see this, particularly on Twitter. But from what I've seen, and you may have seen a little bit different, but this has been accepted across the board. I'm not going to say unanimous anytime on Twitter with stuff, but it has been well received from what I can tell.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why it wouldn't
I
be. I would
wouldn't
think
either.
you want the best sort of play out of a playoff that you could possibly get. Now, I'll say this, there's a lot of talk about Arizona State being,
Yes,
a first round bye, but give Arizona State a lot of credit. Played Texas off its feet
they did.
in Atlanta in that quarterfinal matchup. And so, there can be some instances where we can have a disagreement and then teams sort of affirm where they're at in all this. But yeah, just in terms of how it's going to play out in this next playoff, you'd have had SMU at Tennessee in the first round, Arizona State at Ohio State in a first
Mhm.
round, kind of a play-in game you would have had with Boise State and Indiana. I think that's how that would have felt. That
Yeah.
game would have been played in Bloomington, and then
Mhm.
Clemson at Notre Dame, kind of an ACC game, I guess, if you kind of look at it from that perspective. And your quarterfinal teams moving through with a first round bye would have been you would have had Oregon, you would have had Texas, you would have had Georgia and Penn State.
Yes. Wow. Well, I don't think they'll do anything else, really, unless you're just window dressing for something. But this is the main thing that they were going to do. Now, what we need to also throw in here is there will be massive changes for the next one,
Yeah.
and they're going to trap. They don't have a lot of time, do they? They've really got to get, because this next contract begins next year and goes through 2031. So they've got to get whatever changes they want to do. And obviously, the biggest change is going from 12-team playoff. I think they skip 14, Trav. I'm curious what you think. I think
No.
they go straight to 16,
I
frankly.
mean, it's inevitable. They're going to
It
get to
is.
16 anyway, so I would think they would just jump right to that number.
Mhm.
And money's going to be there, certainly, as we know, for a situation like that. So that would be my guess. They just go straight from 12 to 16. What about SEC spring meetings coming up on the white sand beaches
Oh, yes.
of Destin, Florida, starting next week over there on the Panhandle? Brent, what are the big potential items that you're really keeping your eyes and ears open for? Is it the 9-game
Yes.
potential from a league perspective and football scheduling, maybe some other things?
Oh, I think the 9-game schedule is going to be paramount. And if they want, and again, if they want to get this going, I mean, I can't see them ratifying this, Trav, and wait 5 years to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, what we found out in 2020 is they basically put a schedule together in 3 weeks, and it was all SEC games, and we understand that. But that's the main thing, is to go ahead and do it. And look, you've already seen this and figured this out, I'm sure, but they're now seriously talking about it because someone on the television side of it has leaked it out that there may be a little more wiggle room, Trav, for a little more cash.
Now imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to play an additional SEC game well, we want to be paid for it. And see, what's also important here is next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, is not only do you have the coaches there, the ADs, you've also got the presidents.
Yeah.
And the presidents make the decisions. We don't like that sometimes, but we know there still has got to be a decision maker. So, Trev, when you got all three of them in one place at one over a period of a few days, you can get some things done. And I think the 9 games will either get done or it will be seriously close to being done.
You know, I keep talking about this bubble that I anticipate from the fan perspective.
Yeah.
Because of what you're asking of today's fans.
Yes.
In terms of the length of the season now, if a fan's team makes a playoff, what you're talking about financially, the commitment. And now you're seeing home game tickets, single game tickets in excess of $200. I mean, I keep talking about a bubble, but I do think this kind of goes hand in hand with that. You know, you got to give the fans something more on a continual basis to keep those checks coming, keep those auto debits coming on those season tickets and those booster club dues and things like that. And also, Brent, just wanted to get your thoughts on kind of how all this might marry together. Let's say the SEC says we're going to play 9. Does it go hand in hand, in your opinion, the first season of 9 conference games? Does that kind of go hand in hand, is what I'm getting from you, with the expanded playoff? You go to 16 teams, and then that same season, would you be surprised that that's when we see a 9-game conference schedule, because you got a little bit more of a safety blanket, or, you know, you're covered a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, they've got, for the 16-team playoff, they've got like a deadline of December the 1st, because the new contract starts next year. So now, since you and I have been working together, which has been the early 90s, you know, people think that this may be a new idea.
Brent, we look so much younger than that, Brent. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
You're giving away too much.
Yeah. But the reality of it is, Trav, this has been going on. You remember Steve Spurrier talked about this when he was at Florida. So we finally got to the point now to where it will certainly be discussed. I would think if they're going to do something about it, you would want it to go along and start in the next few years, and ideally with the contract. And see, the other thing that's going on too is, I give Ross Dellinger credit for this. You know, the SEC and the Big Ten still talking about doing something with their championship game, and you may have heard another version of this, but you know, your top 2 teams playing to be the champion, and then you've got something of fact of where your 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place teams would play in order for the winners to be one of the, you know, a couple of the 2 or 3 of the automatic qualifiers.
Wow.
But with that,
playing 37 games.
Yeah. Well, listen, this goes back, Trev, this goes back to your point a few minutes ago. If you're Joe or Mary fan, and Trev, at some point, you know, there's a lot of me that likes it, but there's a lot of me that also understands the pressure on people. I mean, you've got 12 games, and then obviously you've got a you know, championship game and playoffs and so forth. And unfortunately, you've got a lot of people now that are going to be drawing the line of what they can do.
Yeah, and I'm kind of one of those people, as you know. I'm a big music fan.
Yes.
Gone to hundreds of concerts throughout my lifetime. And there's a 3-show run coming up in Northern California, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's Dead and Company. It's a iteration of the Grateful Dead now. John Mayer plays with them.
Yeah.
And 26-year-old Trav would be down. Dropping the cash, traveling across the country, going through everything. But especially as I get older, that 3-night run, that 3-show run will be available on a variation of like pay-per-view.
You believe it
And
will.
so
Absolutely.
guess where 56-year-old Trav will be
Yeah.
right over there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just spray some patchouli oil or something
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
house, and it'll be just like in Northern California maybe. But no, I mean it's kind of goes back to what we're talking about. And when you think about SEC spring meetings and just how far they have come, how much that's
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
The presidents and the ADs, they used to love to go down there just to pick up those checks.
Absolutely.
But think
Yeah.
about in the next few
Yeah.
years, is there going to be like a player delegate, a student athlete delegate that goes to get their cash,
Yeah.
goes to get their
Maybe.
check? Once we get
Maybe.
into this revenue sharing, wow.
Yeah.
But man, we had a lot of great years going down there. Our kids were young, man. We would load up, go down to that Sandestin Hilton, and it was just such a different time because
Yeah.
it isn't the event that it is now. Like you would literally camp out in the lobby and
Yeah.
wait for Jeremy Foley to
Yeah.
walk by,
Right.
or you would wait for Mal Moore or the football coaches or the basketball coaches. You might get a football coach now and get a basketball coach 5 minutes from now. There was
Yeah.
nothing structured about it, but
Right.
now it's essentially become what SEC football media days used to
Yes.
be, and how
Yes.
much football media days is
Oh, yeah.
gone nuts now as well. Hey, Brent, I wanted to talk to you too. I know ESPN ran this. It is the strength of the college football coaching roster for 2025 that I wanted to talk to you about. And I just kind of went down this list, and we'll do that right now. It's in your notes. The top 10
Yes.
college football coaches for 2025. Number 10, Matt Campbell, Iowa State. Number 9, Kyle Whittingham, Utah. Number 8, James Franklin, Penn State. Number 7, Kalen DeBoer, Alabama. Number 6, Dan Lanning of Oregon. Number 5, Steve Sarkisian of Texas. Number 4, Marcus Freeman on the ascent from Notre Dame. Dabo Swinney reemerging,
Yes.
according to ESPN. He's third in this top 10. Number 2, the stress-free Ryan Day these days, Ohio State. Number 1, I think this is pretty simple. Kirby Smart, University of Georgia. But just in kind of going down this list, and I think back to say 2007, 2008, especially in the SEC, this isn't exactly a list that strikes fear in my heart when I stack it up, even to the SEC roster back in 2007, 2008, because you're talking Nick Saban, you're talking Urban Meyer, right? Even when Saban was at LSU in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, that sort of run, and you still had, maybe you had Steve Spurrier winding down, kind of coinciding with that at Florida and the roster you had. But your thoughts is this, am I overreacting and thinking this is as weak of a top 10 of a college football coaching roster as we've had in some time?
I think the group that you're thinking about just had so much more longevity, didn't they?
Yeah.
That they were at one place for a while. I mean, when you think about this group, you think about Lanning and DeBoer. You think about obviously Marcus Freeman and even Ryan Day. Trav,
should Lane Kiffin be on this list?
Well,
I mean, you've got some college football playoff coaches on here,
sure.
And I'm sure you can just throw that right out there as a qualifier, and that eliminates Lane. Lane could have taken care of that last year. But Matt Campbell, or Lane Kiffin, if you're hiring a coach today.
Well, I don't think there's any question. It would be Lane.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now I greatly appreciate Kyle Whittingham and his longevity and what he's done. I think he is a tough-nosed coach that gets the most out of his players. Also, now you've got guys like Lanning who have got I think, tremendous potential to go. And you got to
We haven't
appreciate.
really seen it yet, though. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I guess, a couple of years ago, you can point back to that Oregon team and even this past year, but I think some people look at Kalen DeBoer and
yeah,
say, "What's
yeah,
he doing there?" But then when you look at his record
yeah.
against
Overall, yes,
some of the other coaches on
yes,
this list, what about Josh Heupel? He's a college football playoff coach. Would you have him there
yeah, yeah.
instead of, say, Matt
Good
Campbell?
point. Yeah, probably.
Well,
Oh, yeah. Well, and look, you made the point a few minutes ago, and I mean, the guy to me that is, and I think you said the point that he has reinvented himself as Dabo.
yeah,
Dabo, and when he was going against Nick Saban, and they were in their heyday at that point with obviously great quarterbacks and great defensive lines. Dabo, when he first took the job, oh well, he's a cute little coach who's a recruiter. Well,
yeah.
Dabo, to his credit, is not hesitant to hire and fire coordinators
No.
in that point too, and they did take a bit of a dive, but
Yeah, he
they
got
have
it right. He got it right with quarterbacks there for
he
that
did,
stretch too.
he really did. Oh
I
yeah,
mean, no arguing that with
no.
Dabo.
No.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think I don't know. It just does. It isn't a list that necessarily just sort of jumps off the page at you. Like I said, when you had Rick come into the SEC at Georgia and kind of get that thing going, and then you
Mhm.
had Nick in the league, and you
Yes.
had, the thing is, like, you still had Spurrier in the league with Urban and Nick Saban and
Yeah.
Mark Rick,
Yeah.
and you had Les Miles at LSU.
Mhm.
Bobby Petrino at Arkansas back in
Yes.
those days. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a strong roster, and I get it. Like we said, there are some coaches now, especially
Mhm.
with the field expanding, they've got that affirmation, that confirmation of a college football playoff coach. But
Yeah.
um,
And look, I'm curious what you think about Franklin. I mean,
yeah,
he deserves credit from last year.
yeah,
I'm not sure how good a Lawry is. I remember that awful interception in the Notre Dame game in the
yeah,
playoffs when he should have just thrown the ball into the ground
right,
uh, instead of throwing it away to Notre Dame.
yeah.
But and there's been a lot said about Franklin. Trevor, I've often said I was more impressed with what Franklin did at Vandy than I have been at Penn State.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Look, I mean, had Penn State right there in the playoff last year,
That's right.
with a great opportunity, and as you said, kind of spit the bit there. I'm not a huge James Franklin guy. I think that when you look at the record, I want to say against top 10 type of
Yeah, yeah,
opposition,
yeah. It's not good.
not
Yeah.
particularly great. It seems like last year. Yeah, they get into the playoff, they win a home game, at least in that early, but that's SMU. So it always feels like you're waiting on more from James Franklin
Yeah.
against the
Yes.
best of the competition, like a home game against Ohio State last year that seemed to be on the tee for Penn
Yeah.
State to get over
Yeah.
the hump with that team and win with Abdul Carter and Alar
hmm
and those guys. And they weren't able to do it. But, they did exercise maybe a few demons in the playoff. We won't really know for sure because expectations are definitely going to be there for Penn State
Oh yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
in
Yes.
2025.
Oh
So,
yeah. And listen, I'm going to throw out Sark. I think Sark is ascending too.
yeah,
I mean, they've got, as we like to say, they've got dudes, frankly. And I mean, what he's done with different coordinators, it's Arch's turn. And look, I get that. But the reality is, Texas is where they are because of that front seven and because they can run the ball.
yeah,
I think I think that's as impressive as just about anything else. Frank, and I mentioned LSU a few minutes ago. Trev, would it be safe to say that some LSU fans aren't real happy that their coach is not on
Let
this
me
list.
ask you this, though. I know you're talking about Brian Kelly, and yeah, I'm sure they're not. But just on resume and what they have accomplished, should Marcus Freeman be on this list ahead of Brian Kelly? I know it's fresh,
Yeah,
the run
yeah,
to the national championship game, all
right.
that stuff. Hey, I get it. Brian Kelly coached in a national championship game at Notre Dame.
He did. He
Brian
did.
Kelly coached in, well, at least one playoff game because unfortunately he had to see Alabama again
Yeah,
in that playoff game. I think that was a Rose Bowl that was actually played in Arlington during the COVID year.
yeah.
Um, so it's a fun list because
It
you can
is.
kind of work around it
It is.
and say Brian Kelly or Matt Campbell
Yeah,
based on what they've accomplished. Now, Matt Campbell, the thing you turn that around with is that guy's in, you know, he's in Ames, Iowa for crying out loud,
yeah. Oh,
doing
yeah.
what he's done. But
Yeah.
it's a fun list for this time of year. Know what else is fun, Brent? Those college football magazines. And I
Oh,
know, give us the update because nothing gets Brent Beaird going like the college football preview magazines on the immediate horizon.
yeah. And for folks to know, Phil Steele, his magazine goes to press June the 6th, and then it will be on the stands July the 4th. So it's later, it's bigger, and I think arguably it would be more accurate. Obviously, Lindy's is one that we use because it's just so handy. June
Yeah.
3rd is the national magazine. June 17th is the website. According to the website, 17th is when the SEC edition comes. And listen, the thing that really has kind of got my attention, I talked to a guy who writes for Athlon, and he said they're having a slimmed down edition. Trav, get this, 450 word preview with a two deep. I know, and look, you did a magazine, and
Yeah.
you know what this is like.
100 years
And
ago. Yeah.
listen, this NIL and not having the rosters a whole lot earlier. Imagine what that's done to trying to get a magazine out.
Yeah, it's like Athlon Express, you could call it.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
smaller, you have the big chains. Sometimes they'll be in standalone buildings, and then they'll open an express, maybe in a strip center. That's kind of what
yeah,
that's going to
yeah.
feel like with Athlon. But you know what? We'll take what we can get, right,
That's right.
Brent? And
Absolutely.
we start thinking about some of the mile markers still out there, not too far. SEC Media Days
Yes,
will be here
yes.
before you know it.
Yeah, in Atlanta this year, people haven't heard. It was in Dallas last year. So and they love it in Atlanta. I know the commissioner does at the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And we all know the difficulties you've got in Atlanta with parking and traffic. So, but that will be very interesting. There'll be more TV schedules that will come out at that point. And Trev, I wonder how close they will be. And obviously, the commissioner's addresses are always
Yeah.
something that everybody follows with this. And I wonder if Sankey at that point will make some. Then they may not be ready to do it. If they would be a lot closer to making some announcements, or at least we'll have an idea where they're going on some of these issues.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Got some of those week one kickoff times. I know you've
Yes.
got it in the notebook. Looks like Lee Corso's final headgear game will be Tallahassee, which of
Yeah.
course very much a part of his football and life DNA. Florida State and that Alabama game there at Doak Campbell
Yes.
Stadium, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Look, that's a big game for both those teams. Frankly, I had a chance to be among the media that interviewed Mike Norvell, who was in town last week, and heard a little bit about him. He said he didn't want to waste that 2-10
Hmm.
and trying to get something.
Don't waste a failure, Nick
Yeah.
Saban.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
Nick Saban.
The very and look, how many, what are the over and under is going to be on this mentions, but People,
that goes back to that coaching roster we were talking
mhm,
about. I mean, you think
mhm.
about some of those jobs that were the jobs over the
Oh yeah,
last 30 or 40 years. Florida State,
right, right.
yeah, 2023, great year, got left out of the playoff, but then responded with a train wreck in Tallahassee in 2024. Look at Oklahoma with Brent
Yes,
Venables.
yes.
That job very much in question these days.
Mhm.
You look at Florida, Billy Napier. Is he really the guy? I think we're going to learn more about that in 2025. Even Mario Cristobal at Miami.
Yes. Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
we didn't see him in that top 10 either. Those are the
No,
type of programs when you don't have it exactly right as the head coach in that spot. USC, no Lincoln Riley
no,
in that top 10.
no,
Speaks
no.
to the kind of record and year the Trojans had a year ago. So that those places, those jobs, it means a lot. And Florida State, there was a time not too long ago, was one of those places.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no doubt about that. That stadium is being refurbished, but they need some kind of excitement. They're not getting anything from basketball. They made a change there. The baseball team is very good. That they'll be interesting to see how far they can go. But football needs a shot in the arm. And I tell you this, Trev, the last thing Mike Norvell needs is a 37-7 tap from
Oh,
an angry Alabama team on that first weekend.
yeah. I mean, we're going to find out a lot about both those teams. Is it going to be that step forward in year two under Kalen DeBoer, especially with Ryan Grubb now in charge of that offense, even with the change at quarterback, veteran and Ty Simpson in a lot of ways stepping in there. How does that work with Grubb now? Kind of got the band back together offensively with Kalen
Mhm.
DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. So the expectations aren't going to dip for Alabama in
No.
that regard. And then Kane Womack on the defensive side. And I know you mentioned this in the notebook. And statistically, the numbers ended up looking pretty good. I won't say great by Alabama
Mhm.
standards. And I
Mhm.
understand it's a different game in 2025. You're not going to have a year in which you give up 4.6 points per game. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the numbers to me were better than what I saw from the
Yes.
Alabama defense. So I
Yes.
think it's an opportunity to validate on that side of the ball for the Crimson Tide as well. Florida State's the greatest mystery in college football to me
No
going into the
doubt.
season. Thomas Castellanos comes in from BC. I think he could be really fun in that Gus Malzahn offense. But other than that, I don't know what the heck to expect from the Seminoles.
I agree with that. That's very true. I mean, Sawchuck comes over from Oklahoma at running back. When he's healthy, he's
Yeah.
pretty good. Also, Williams is there at running back, and we know Gus loves to be able to run the ball. But again, we talked a few weeks ago, Trav. They haven't. I mean, they basically had, I think, two players maybe drafted in the NFL on that offensive line. And
That's
frankly,
wild.
more than a decade. And look, you and I both know. I don't care what league it is. If you can't get it right on your offensive and defensive line, it's going to be a rough year.
Not with the schedule Florida State still plays. And I know it's the ACC, but you still have to be able to at least compete there. And
Oh
I do
yeah,
think Alabama on the lines of scrimmage is going to feel pretty good about itself
sure.
going into that matchup. Going to feel like decidedly it probably has the advantage over the Seminoles along the lines of scrimmage, but we'll see how it plays out. Well, it's
Listen,
sultry, hot, maybe stormy. That's the thing I worry about too with those 3:30 kickoffs in the state of
yes,
Florida in late
yes.
August and September. It's
Oh
not just
man,
the heat
yeah,
impact, it's
right.
the stormy weather, the
Yeah,
stoppages and everything
yeah,
else you can
yeah.
get.
It's a 3 hour weather delay
Yeah.
is what Travis
Yeah.
is talking. And listen, I'm going to mention this. Trav, did you catch this Mac Brown quote
No, please.
about he's talking about Belichick. UNC has invested money in lowered academic standards. They've committed the money. They've helped him with the
Yeah.
academic standards.
Transfer portal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was rather interesting, and and all this goes above and beyond
Acts
the
like I may be in my 70s, but you know, I'm
yeah.
safe compared to Bill.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. So, but anyway, the girlfriend aside, but boy,
That feels like a Alabama situation circa 2000
it does, don't
between
it?
Dubose
Yeah.
and, Mike Price and that little
Yes.
bit of Fran in there. Carolina right now feels like Bama 2000-ish,
Yeah. Yeah.
2000, 2003-ish right now.
Yeah. They've got to get that worked out before the fall, and that becomes a real laughing stock. But look, they've got to do a whole lot better job and restocking that roster for North Carolina. That what Belichick doesn't need, he doesn't need a 2-10 himself.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Brent, anything else for us as we get out of here on a Thursday night?
Well, I think some of the other stuff that's going on, South Carolina still continues to get a lot of love, and they've got an interesting matchup to start the season with Virginia Tech
Yep.
in Atlanta with that, and obviously, and look, the guy who doesn't want any publicity is one Mike Shula, who's
Yeah.
going to be the OC at South Carolina, and look, frankly, Shula really was changing coordinators away from being in Alabama longer. That worked out, I think, better for everybody. But are you curious like me what Shula is really able to do with with the kind of quarterback that he's got that everybody loves in Norris
He
Sellers?
worked with Cam in
He did.
Carolina,
He did.
so some similarities there too. It was interesting with the Cam situation in Carolina in the NFL because when Tim Tebow was coming out of Nice High School, it was Alabama or Florida.
Yeah.
And the one thing I felt pretty confident in was from a system fit, Tim Tebow would be very good
Hmm.
in a Dan Mullen,
Oh yeah.
Urban Meyer offense. What I wasn't sure about was Tim Tebow in a very pro
That way.
oriented
Yes.
under center some drop back
Hmm.
play action.
Hmm.
I wasn't as sure about him.
No.
So I'd say, yeah, it played out just fine for Tim.
Oh
Although
yeah.
it wasn't as it wasn't as much of a guarantee as a lot of people thought it was that he would, follow his family steps basically to Gainesville. It took some coaxing, some real coaxing. Although
Yes.
I don't know if anyone ever really thought he wasn't going to go to Florida, but I think there was some things that needed to be maybe smoothed over a little bit in that process.
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, I've been told by some people who would know that if Tebow would have made that announcement at 2 o'clock instead of at 5 o'clock, like he did, and I was there at Nice for the announcement, that he very well may have gone to Alabama. He loved Mike Shula.
Yeah, he did. He genuinely did like Mike Shula a
Yeah.
lot as a
Yes.
person. I think he liked Mike Shula better in that dynamic than he did Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
yeah.
And the last thing I'll throw out here is a quote from Hugh Freeze. Uh, 11 and 14 right now is Hugh. Quote, I'm not a fool. I think we've got to go to a bowl game.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just what Auburn fans want to hear going into year 3,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and the further quote says, "Look, I inherited a program that didn't have a top 25 recruiting class for 4 years, so you're not going to win in this league if you don't have one." So, I
Went
some
to a bowl game in year 1,
yeah,
got blown out, and then threw the staff under the bus.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, we remember that well. Shall we call that some transparency from you, Trav?
You never know what you're going to get with Hugh. That's what
No.
makes it all the more fun. Brent, as always, a lot of fun with you right here on Second Helping on the Reier on YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to Reier on YouTube, hit that notification bell. That way you'll be alerted to all of our content as it drops right here on the channel. And a thumbs up for the show would help us out tremendously as well. Brent, look forward to doing it again real soon.
Me too, bud. Always enjoy it. Take care.
For Brent, I'm Trav. Thanks again. Until next time. So long, everybody.